My name is Tiffany Grayson.
I'm Tammy Parrish.
Heather Ellis.
Derek Wade. Adam Grayson.
Go ahead.
Caffeine in its pure form is a powdered substance, and it's available online for $3.29 per teaspoon. In October of 2010, Daily Mail UK reported that a student took 2 teaspoonfuls and then chased it with an energy drink and later died from a heart attack. That was equal to 70 Red Bulls. So most of us get tired through the day, or we're not as productive. So what do? Well, most of us turn to caffeine of some sort. Some like the taste, some like the effect, and some like both. Today I'm going to inform you about caffeine, where it comes from, how we consume it, the risks, and the benefits. Some people might not be familiar with caffeine, so I'm going to tell you some benefits that you might not know about, and some people survive on caffeine through the day like me, and I'll give you some ideas of other ways to get your caffeine without having to live at the coffee stand. And so we'll be talking about where caffeine comes from, ways to consume it, and health benefits and risks. So, where does it come from? Caffeine has been a favorite chemical since recorded time. HowStuffWorks.com says that an African tribe would grind bitter coffee beans and animal fat to make the first power bar. It comes from many sources. One of them is coffee beans. They grow on trees that are 30 feet tall. The berries are called coffee cherries. And the seed inside the coffee cherry is the coffee bean. They're dried and then shipped around the world and then roasted and brewed into coffee. The trees grow in the bean belts here, where it's cold and rainy, or warm and rainy, and so that's where they grow. Also, caffeine comes from an evergreen tea bush, mainly in China and in India. The top 1 to 2 inches are called flushes, and they're picked. New flushes come every 7 to 15 days. They're steeped in hot water to get the caffeine out. Cocoa beans are a rough, leathery cocoa pod, cultivated by fermenting and drying for 4 to 7 days, processed by roasting and grinding into a thick, creamy paste manufactured into caffeine to make chocolate products. Kola nut resembles a chestnut and grows in a tree that gets up to 70 feet tall. They are soaked and dried for 3 months and stored for 14, and they're boiled to get the caffeine out. Synthetic caffeine, like the party goer took, are made in a laboratory, and the FDA requires them on the ingredient list in anything that it's in, but natural caffeine is not required to be labeled on that. So now that we talked about where caffeine comes from, let's talk about different ways to consume it once it has been harvested. Caffeine comes from lots of things like pills, patches, sprays, inhalers, beverages, chocolate, and the most common is coffee. This is a picture of an inhaler that you can huff to get your caffeine anytime you want.
There you go.
90% of Americans drink coffee, making it one of America's most popular drugs. The Mayo Clinic, last accessed in May 2014, says a cup of coffee can have 150 milligrams of caffeine. Depending on how much water is added, the steeping time, and the type of bean is how much caffeine that you have in it, and the same goes for tea, depending on the type of leaf. Black tea can have up to 80 milligrams of caffeine. So this chart shows how coffee is definitely the strongest, and then it goes down to the teas and then chocolates and sodas. Energy drinks and colas have 35 to 55 milligrams of caffeine, but it's synthetic caffeine mixed with sugar. Energy drinks can have up to 80, and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics say that that is also mixed with sugar, so you're not getting as much caffeine as you could from a cup of coffee. Chocolate bars can vary in potency from 6 to 36 milligrams of caffeine due to the blend of cocoa butter and sugar in the chocolate. So the best way to get the maximum milligrams of caffeine per swig of beverage comes from a regular cup of coffee. Now that we've talked about where it comes from and how to consume it, let's talk about the effects and how much we are recommended to consume. Medical News Today, last access January 2014, says it is a stimulant for the central nervous system, so it helps with tiredness, concentration, focus, and that could be why people like it in the mornings when they're the most tired. It boosts long-term memory, reduces the risk of suicide, liver, throat, and mouth cancer. The Mayo Clinic says some of the risks are insomnia, nervous, restlessness, irritability, upset stomach, fast heartbeat, muscle tremors, and addiction. Last year, Medical News Today said that more than 4 cups a day can risk an early death, put you at risk for an early death. Recommended caffeine intake from the Mayo Clinic says adults should consume 300 milligrams, which is 2 to 4 cups of coffee, 10 sodas, or 2 energy drinks. Adolescents should limit to 100 milligrams or less. We now know where caffeine comes from, different ways to consume it, and the health risks and benefits. Hopefully now you can satisfy your cravings without taking a teaspoonful of straight caffeine. Whether we crave it or avoid it, caffeine is a powerful influence in our everyday life.